BTS Beyond the Star episode 2. This is one of the most important episodes in any of the documentaries that they have ever released, at least for me, primarily because they provided a lot of new insights in the previous emotions that they felt in relation to the many experiences that they have shared before. So it felt like I understand them better. I understand a lot of the emotions that they felt, or it contextualized a lot of the things that they said before because of this episode. So it just felt like it, to a certain extent, I was getting to know them a little better. Okay, and I hope that you feel the same way. Okay, so if you do end up enjoying this episode, please give it a like. Also subscribe and hit that notification button so that you won't miss any of the new videos that we are releasing. And of course, share the video if you can. I'm actually in Vegas for a conference. It's for work. I'm going to share with you some of the things that we're doing, and I'm doing, not anybody else is doing, and the view from my room later. Okay, let's go to the video. Their ending is always just another beginning. When BTS announced the beginning of their Chapter 2, I remember being surprised that this is only Chapter 2. After all the achievements and milestones, I thought they would treat this as Chapter 5000. But seeing how things unfolded in Beyond the Star, it made me understand that each milestone or achievement they have made was never treated as a milestone by many. They never paused to celebrate each time BTS breaks down a wall. Each of their endings was simply just another beginning. Instead of being assured that their last achievement was enough, they were constantly asked what's next for them. It is confusing and frustrating, and it could make you feel like you're not enough or that you can't afford to stop. This should make us realize just how important it is to celebrate our milestones, to pause and just to know what we have achieved. This could make us realize and feel like we are able to finish a race and are not simply running an endless marathon. Their humility is a double-edged sword. This is a personal observation and to a certain extent mere speculation, but it seemed to me that BTS's humble beginnings, humble nature, and humble ambitions made it harder for them to cope with their success. Suga said they didn't think they can handle that level of success, and that's one of the reasons they all wanted to quit. In fact, when they were told they were going to have a concert in the Olympics gymnastics arena, they were all really concerned whether or not they can fill the venue. I can't help but wonder if they could have done more sooner had they been fully aware, and yes, maybe a little cocky of how popular they really were. What do you think? But on the other hand, I'm also certain that it's their humility that kept them focused on their music. It kept them on the right track instead of turning to drugs or drowning in depression. My theory is that no one is naturally built to wear a crown. That's why many rulers, political leaders, and even celebrities end up being abusive or depressive once they get to the top. The only way you can balance and temper privilege, fame, and freedom is through responsibility. Knowing your actions have consequences and the consequences are a direct result of your actions will motivate people to be more accountable and live unselfishly. That's what BTS seem to have had. The full awareness that whatever they do will affect other people. We might have to welcome fear. RM said that at some point he feared looking at the news each time they release an album because he wasn't sure what kind of criticisms they were going to get. It gives me a better understanding of how much he really values music. We only fear losing what we value. He would always hear about how good their albums were doing commercially, but his fear wasn't based on the commercial success. It was the critical response he was concerned about. That only goes to show that it is the quality he was after, not necessarily the success of the album commercially. It also made me realize that to a certain extent, it is good to fear losing something because it means you have something important enough for you to want to keep it. Once again, RM taught me something new. There is always two ways to look at things. The secret is love. Globally, there are very few artists that can perform at the level of energy, intensity, and quality that BTS can deliver, and this documentary explains why. Jungkook and J-Hope specifically pointed out that they love the stage so much. It was the one place they can completely get lost in. And in the previous episode, Suga went on to the extent of saying he didn't know what was the point of making music if he couldn't perform in front of the armies. BTS doesn't do music and they don't perform just because they are good at it or because they have to. They do it because they love it. It is a love so strong, so intense, the audience feels it. That's why their performances have been unmatched. Quite simply, it's because of love. Ice on their veins. Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady. These are the people you would think of when you use the word clutch. With a second on the clock, a championship on the line, these are the athletes that you want to handle the ball. They have ice on their veins. They shine on a do-or-die situation. And if there is an equivalent in music, it would be BTS. Some of their greatest victories came from the most desperate of situations. Big Hit was on the brink of bankruptcy when they released the most beautiful moment in life. It became their ticket to global dominance. Their first Daesang was the very last chance they could win one that year. Their first Billboard Hot 100 came after all their plans for a tour were shut down because of COVID. In the darkest of situations, with their backs against the wall, championship on the line, BTS brings it home. That's why I still think that they would have won the World Expo bid of Busan had they been able to finish the campaign. But we all know what happened to that. 2017 Billboard Music Awards. Watching that clip of them attending BBMAs for the first time in 2017 was surreal for me. I still vividly remember watching them win from my cheap hotel room. I've told the story before. I actually tried watching live, but when I got to the venue, the queue was so long. I know I didn't stand a chance, so I decided to go back to my hotel room and watch it from there. And I really don't know how to describe it. It's one of those you had to be there moments for you to fully understand. But I guess it felt like hope. I guess that's how I could describe it. I moved to the US 2013. They debuted 2013. And so a lot of the things that I was experiencing, they served as a landmark. And I guess that would be the same for a lot of people who discovered them. Like a lot of things that were happening in our lives, they were actually the landmarks of those experiences. And so watching them win for the first time, it felt like mountains were being knocked down, doors were being broken down, and the path was being cleared, even though the industry I was working on, the life that I was living and I am living, has absolutely nothing to do with them. But it just felt like that. It felt like hope. It's totally surreal. It was like I'm free falling without a parachute. So yeah, it feels worth it being able to watch it all over again. ARMY is just a bunch of crazy teenagers, right? It was important, and it was a relief to hear that BTS felt America treated them better, specifically in the very first Billboard Music Award they attended, because of the number of ARMYs that showed up in the venue. It didn't matter that many thought they were just another boy band. It didn't matter that many Westerners felt ARMY is just a bunch of crazy teenagers. It only mattered that BTS felt it was ARMY that protected them. I, of course, can't speak for all ARMYs, but I'm sure there are a lot of you that would agree that it really doesn't matter how the world looks at ARMYs. It only matters how BTS sees ARMY. When they lost their hero. One of the oddest things I hear from haters is the supposed hypocrisy of BTS when they almost broke up because they became too successful, beyond what they ever thought was possible. It's odd to me because I always thought it's one of the most relatable things they said and went through, because many of us actually go through or went through this same experience. It may be different in details, but it's the same nonetheless. Have you ever been lost in a country with a language you don't speak? Have you ever ended up in a place and have absolutely no clue where you're going or where you came from, and worse, how you ended up there? You have no point of reference, no idea how to go back to where you were. no idea where you're supposed to go and what to do in order to make sense of the situation. It's frustrating, frightening, and absolutely maddening. That's kind of similar to what BTS went through, but multiply it a million times. By their own explanation, all they were really doing was working hard, setting small goals, win a number one in a music show, have a concert in a larger venue in Korea, and win a Daesang. Then they suddenly found themselves in America and being called the primary movers of Korea's culture and economy. That's an entire country we're talking about, and they are one of the few who's carrying it on their shoulder. Their primary difference is that they are just 7 boys who sing and rap. The other big contributors to the Korean economy are composed of thousands of brilliant people with billions of dollars in funding. BTS, as soon as they won the first Billboard Music Award, had no point of reference anymore. They lost their hero. The artists they admired have never gone to the place they were. They had no map, no guide in a world that's totally strange and totally different. What BTS felt is real. And we've all felt that same emotion before, just not in the same nature as BTS did. The kids are alright. At the beginning of their global rise, J-Hope said that they extremely enjoyed their journey, and it was just nice to see them being fully present of what they were achieving, taking in the love and the support of their fans, especially because now we know darker days were ahead. It was a relief to know that not everything was lost in the velocity of their success, that there were moments they were actually enjoying it, and that the bond that they were forming were becoming stronger. As a fan and knowing what was ahead, I value it when they share it. Armies were fighting tooth and nail to help them get the recognition they already deserve. It was a relief to hear that we weren't simply subjecting them to mental stress. They were happy. At some point, they were happy. That means there is hope they could be happy again, and that's enough. No one wants to be the bad guy. Suga actually already said this several years ago that Tear was actually a song about BTS. It was about their almost breakup. But it just made me think about all the things that we get ourselves stuck into simply because we couldn't say goodbye. Maybe because we don't want to hurt people, or we simply don't want to be the bad guy and break things up. But we often get ourselves stuck into things just because we can't afford to say goodbye, or we don't want to be the bad guy and say goodbye. I guess that only goes to show the kind of genius that that BTS has when it comes to creating music. They always talk about personal stuff, but they manage to make it relatable to a lot of people, and that is why we need them to continue making music, because no one does it like them. But of course, if they don't want to continue making music, of course we will all support that, right? Whatever it is that they want to do, but I hope they do continue making music. The world needs it. Okay, so I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear if you would be generous enough to actually share if you've gotten yourself stuck into situations just because you don't want to be the one to say goodbye, or if you were there in 2017 and saw them win BBMAs for the first time, let me know as well. And other takeaways that you have for episode 2, I'll be reading them. I'm sorry I haven't been able to reply to a lot of your comments simply because I'm still catching up with work after the 2-week vacation that I took during Christmas and New Year. But I will get to it, and I do appreciate you commenting. I appreciate your support. Thank you for all of your good words. I read them. I really read them, so please continue, and I'll get to responding to all of it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Till next time.